What's good, fellow outcasts and other rejects? Welcome to WTC, the Anime Outcast. First off, this is a special crossover with a longtime friend of the channel, NoahStorys, so make sure to check out the first part of the series on his channel. Secondly, if you're new here, we upload anime what-ifs based around My Hero and other shows alike. So if you like this video, feel free to stay around. Now without further ado, let's get into the video. We pick up with Izuku in his room, studying quietly. Papers and books flood his desk. Among them are sketches and notes for a new hero costume, which helps him get his mind off of Ida's death, though nothing could stop those moments from replaying in his head over and over again. Out of pure exhaustion, the tormented boy slams his head against the table and takes a second to collect his thoughts. After a few seconds of peace, Izuku looks at the Omnitrix, wanting answers. Taking a deep breath, he then stands up and pops the watch dial. Smacking it back down, he becomes his accursed hero, Hibiki.
Come on, talk to me again. Why are you doing this?
Izuku pleads to himself quietly, hoping to make contact with whatever entity is trapped within it that form. But none would be made. Just depressing silence. On the subject of Inko, we should probably go over her knowledge of the Omnitrix. Like canon, Izuku used the excuse of being a late bloomer and used the same explanation for UA, which if you don't remember, he called it DNA metamorphosis, and claimed it added the genes of multiple superpowered creatures into his own. But in this version, he left out the watch and said he could just naturally do it. If he tried to say his father got him the support item, as he did at the UA, she would most likely see through it. Inko, for the most part, believed it, and is ecstatic for her son. But she also thought his habit of naming the forms and using them every chance he got was a little unhealthy. She perhaps thought quirk counseling may be needed, but by the time she went to get an appointment, Izuku was already attending UA. But moving past that, we inch closer to the exams. None of the students knows what to expect for the practical section, as Aizawa wasn't giving any hints or guidance for it, which isn't out of character for him. Though some leverage would come from Kendo, a student from Class 1B, she claims one of her friends from second year leaked to her that it's just like the entrance exam, destroying robots and the like. As for a written part of the exam, Izuku would be reasonably ready for it. Though his learning would stagnate slightly due to his mental health, he would use his cortex form for making great notes. On a quick side note, Aizawa and the rest of the teachers would be wise enough to not let him use his Galvan form during the actual exam. Skipping forward to the actual practical day, the students gather around massive facility, not unlike the USJ. Some of them start chattering amongst themselves, wondering what this could entail. But the confusion only gets worse as the primary hero course teachers emerge from the main building. From inside Aizawa's binding cloth, Nezu explains the exam layout, which we needn't get into. Though we do need to get into some exam pairings. The first and most prominent being the lack of two students, Mineta and Ida. Because of that, their two remaining teammates, Sero and Ojiro, would be put together to fight Power Loader. We'll discuss that outcome in a second. For now, we move on to the next pairing, being Deku and Bakugo against All Might, which gets different reactions from the two. Izuku is utterly terrified by the match but only sees All Might as the main problem. As for Bakugo, his teammate doesn't surprise him, as they've been getting lumped together a lot recently. "What's the matter, young Midoriya? I thought you'd be honored to see my moves up close," All Might exclaims with a sinister grin, spooking the boy. But Bakugo steps between the two, staring at the darkened eyes of the symbol of peace. "Listen here! Forget that useless nerd! Your fight is with me and no one else!" he roars, wanting to be All Might's single center of attention. "We'll see about that, Bakugo. Whether you have the conviction to hold true to your word," the hero retorts, seeing it as a challenge. The last part of that remark catches Izuku off guard. The part about having conviction got hit to him. We can get onto the exam outcomes. Most stay the same, which are Mina and Kaminari against Nezu, Sato and Kirishima against Cementos, and Uraraka and Ayama against 13. Going on to the ones that actually have to change in them, Todoroki and Yaoyorozu against Eraserhead. The outcome would still be a win for the students, but it would be a lot more hard-fought and have Todoroki become more accepting of his fire side. In a sense, Izuku made cracks in his shell, and Yaoyoroza would be the one to actually break it. Then for Sero and Ojiro, against Power Loader, it could go either way. Sero's movement would be very limited in their given arena in favor of Teacher, but at the same time, he could easily restrain him from the tape just long enough for Ojiro to get close to strike. We're going to take the optimistic route and say they had passed. Now on to the main event, Bakugo marches into the urban city prepared for the fight of his life, while Izuku lazily follows behind, not prepared to take on All Might at all. Alright, I'll get ready to go Alpha X and make a break for the exit, Deku explains, seeing a head-on fight with All Might as a death sentence. So he concludes that racing past the teacher, or even avoiding him entirely, would be the best course of action. This angers his teammate, causing him to yell back, "Don't even think about it! Didn't you hear what I said before?" The main reason he's so eager to fight the #1 hero is to prove to himself he still has what it takes to be the best. His failure at fighting Stain made him doubt himself a lot. But Izuku doesn't listen, going to dial up his speed hero instead. Bakugo grabs his wrist and spins the dial out of frustration, randomizing the alien. "I'm not letting you ruin this for me!" The Explosion King roars at Izuku, still clutching his partner's wrist. "What's your problem? It's not like we can actually beat him." Deku then argues back, sparking an all-out argument between them. They hurl abuse at each other for the rest of the grace period, allowing All Might to gain a strategic advantage straight away. From the other end of the arena, All Might begins to flex as One For All begins to course throughout him. Even with the weight limiters on him, he's still confident in his odds for winning the mock battle. Hearing the starting alarm, he sends a destructive wave of air tearing through the city with one near maxed out punch. When it reaches his two opponents, it still has enough force to knock them off their feet. As Izuku is sent flying into the air, something hits off the Omnitrix, causing him to transform prematurely. Bakugo tries to go against the wind by using his explosions to keep him where he is, but this barely works. "If that's how you kids are going to act, then you might as well give up now," All Might announces as he marches up the road, a pissed expression on his face and looking terrifying. Izuku, in his Sakurajima form, freezes at the sight of the fake villain. He then frantically attempts to transform into Alpha X, only to be caught off guard by All Might advancing beyond him. From there, he goes for a Detroit Smash upon the Pyro Knight. Somehow, Izuku turns around fast enough to breathe a vast wave of fire onto him. But from the other side of the flames, a hand reaches out and grabs Deku by the head, smashing him into the ground and stop his attack. Then, All Might repeatedly slams him onto the ground before throwing him aside. Bakugo tries a similar move, blitzing All Might with the rapid-fire explosions, but they don't even phase him. It's like he's invincible, impervious to any attack. As Izuku gets back up, he tries one more time to switch form, only for All Might to stop him once again. "Not so fast, young Midoriya! I think that form suits you!" All Might shouts, grabbing him by the leg and using him as a blunt weapon against Bakugo. Even though the alien is searing hot, he handles him like it's nothing. Once the hero is done toying with the two students, he tosses Izuku to the side and taunts. "Time's ticking, heroes. And yet here you are, not the slightest bit of progress made." Overall, he's disappointed by their performance so far. Like the speech about conviction before, this gets a strong reaction from Izuku, causing something to spark within him. He starts punching the ground in a fit of rage, gaining a strange look from his teammate and teacher. Then the boy explodes into a fiery tornado as he stands up. "Ah, I see you finally," the symbol tries to say before Izuku rushes him, becoming like a shooting star as he flies right at him. At first, All Might thinks he can counter such an apparent attack, going for another straight punch. As the two go to clash, Deku rolls to the side and goes for an uppercut. When he's about to make contact with the enemy's chin, he concentrates his flame into a striking arm and unloads a powerful fiery beam along with the punch. This catches All Might off guard, forcing him to back away as he begins violently coughing. From here, the two clash once more, locking hands. At the start, it appears All Might has the power advantage, pushing Deku into the ground, But then, the flames shoot out of the alien's back, scorching the earth and giving him more force to go against All Might with. As he gets All Might on the ropes, Izuku vaguely notices something being hurled at them, getting dangerously close. But with no other choice, he disengages just before the object comes crashing down on top of All Might. The hero is taken to the ground by the object landing on him, with debris and smoke masking them.
Talk about a rough landing.
Someone then groans from within the crash site, but the voice clearly wasn't from All Might. When the dust settles, Izuku is met by a startling sight of a disgruntled Hesose kneeling on the ground, rubbing his thick diamond skull. He even has his own Omnitrix, though with a completely different uniform. At first, he looks around confused until locking eyes with Izuku, where it turns to irritation.
Albedo? What are you doing here? You're supposed to be in prison. Are you working with these guys now?
He comments as he gets to his feet, staring down the fellow alien. It takes a second for Izuku to get a grip, punching himself before muttering out,
Albedo, who's that?
But the Petrosapien doesn't seem happy with that response, causing him to jump into action, jamming his fist into the ground and sending a wave of crystal at Deku.
Don't play dumb with me. How did you even get your knockoff Omnitrix working again? I thought Azimuth disabled it.
He commands to know as he continues his attack. Izuku dodges the wave of attacks by shooting himself to the side, landing in a crouched position. With one hand forming a fireball and the other outstretched in a passive gesture, he tries to reason with the Diamond Man.
Look, you're clearly just as confused as the rest of us. Just tell me who you are and we can get everything sorted out.
But this confounds the Diamond Man. Taking a second, more irate, look at the Pyro Knight before uttering,
Wait, so you're not Albedo? You clearly don't sound like him.
He answers back as the conversation takes a less hostile tone and one more of a total confusion from both parties.
No, I'm not. You said the name before. Who's Albedo?
Midoriya says. As he speaks, the Petrosapien starts surveying the area, seeing a worn-out Bakugo behind himself and double-take at the buffed-out All Might. The hero lays on the ground, his head buried in the pavement. This adds an extra layer of confusion to the situation.
He's this Galvin who accidentally got himself stuck in my body after creating a copy Omnitrix.
The intruder explains, causing Izuku to become livid after he mentioned the Omnitrix, but the rest of the explanation made no sense either. He hasn't a clue what a Galvin is. Though he's transformed into one numerous times, he had never heard its species name before. Same for all of his other forms.
Stuck in your body? What? For the last time, who are you?
Deku blurts out, feeling entirely lost by the situation. Every time something was said, it made less and less sense. The Petrosapien then hits the symbol on his belt. After an ensuing flash of light subsided, he turned into Izuku Midoriya. From his hair to facial structure, he is almost identical to our own, except the uniform he wears.
I'm Izuku Midoriya. Well, my hero name is Changeling. But if you're not Albedo, then who are you?
The boy wears a primary white and green padded uniform with a more gauntlet-like Omnitrix. Our Izuku, the one still transformed, disperses the fireball and just points at his duplicate.
Holy shit,
He tries to mutter before another person decides to crash the exam, a rampaging rhino-like villain. It guns straight for Sakurajima, ramming into him and driving him through the countless mock buildings. Though its intended target was the mysterious Deku, it mistook the flaming copy for him. With the two breaking out of the exam center bounds and heading straight for a city district, different Midoriya starts giving chase while dialing in for an alien. For a distance, Aizawa starts swinging through the arena and calls out towards the student.
Midoriya, what's going on?
The teacher demands to know, only getting a rushed and confused answer from the boy.
I'm not entirely sure myself, sir. That Exo School villain was rampaging and I tried to stop him and then I ended up here somehow?
He answers back before becoming an alien dubbed laser ray and flying off. Back with the other Izuku, he struggles to hold back the villain as they enter the bustling city. He couldn't copy what he did against All Might to stop his path. That would only cause more damage than it's worth. So he changes into Kudzu and moves from the rhino's horn to his back. Then, he plunges his feet like tendrils into the ground and wraps his arms around the beast's neck, all in hopes of getting him to stop. While watching from above, the other Izuku notices how his doppelganger seemed to be a lot more heroic than the last. Though the alien choice also seemed off to him, he has never seen that one before. But eventually, Kudzu does get the villain to yield, stopping him by basically choking him out until he stops. Both ground combatants stop dead in their tracks. Exo Skull falls to his knees while struggling to breathe. Izuku drops onto his back while getting timed out, his body wrecked. Then, the Aerophibian lands beside the other boy to inspect him. He's just like him, except for the homemade suit he had and the older version of the Omnitrix. Panicking, the human Izuku tries to roll away from this copy and get to his feet.
Whoa, calm down. Izuku? Other me? Or Midoriya? How should... Anyway, I'm not here to fight.
The other Midoriya explains as he reverts to his own human form, offering a hand to his lookalike. After a couple of seconds of confused silence, the other boy takes it cautiously as the two begin to properly discuss what's going on. Then, on top of an onlooking building, a purple rift forces its way into existence. From it falls an armored-clad man, Eon. He peers down at the two Omnitrix wielders in disgust, but yet he's intrigued by them. Never has he seen anyone like them wield the watch, even in the countless universes he's trekked through. His sunken eyes widen as he notices the knocked-out Exo Skull laying beside the two, pushing him to bring in reinforcements. Eon casts one of his arms to the side, another portal opening up. Then a disgruntled American teenager appears from it. Where? He mutters out loud, startled by his new surroundings. Then, the Time Walker starts barking for the boy to go down there and fight the other two Omnitrix users. Whatever, the kid lazily answers back, slowly making his way down the building to his target. The boy has this tired and lax attitude to him. This gives the two Izuku a bit more time to talk things over rationally, but no matter how many times they went over each other's alibis, nothing seems to make sense. As the emo kid approaches, our Deku notices him but only sees him as a civilian. The Izuku who crashed the exam calls out to him as if they've met before. However, something about the guy doesn't sit well with the other Deku, like he has this unsettling demeanor. Glad to see a friendliest face, the other Deku goes to meet the American halfway, shuffling towards him. In his own universe, he's friends with who he thinks this is. But as he gets close, the emo kid hits something on his wrist, almost like he has an Omnitrix, followed by a purple flash. Once it subsides, Izuku is left with his jaw wide open as he's met with a Chroma Stone, one of his own aliens. With that marking the entrance of the third Omnitrix user, both Deku brace themselves for another fight. Thanks again to the Outcasts and Rejects for watching to the end of the video. Normally we would talk about the light goal here, but seeing as the part of the special series, that just isn't needed. Just make sure to check out the first part of Noah's channel, and the other than that, if you have any questions about the series or channel, sound off in the comments or feel free to join the Discord. Thanks.